with a reputation for controlling the narrative walks right back into the spotlight she once stormed out of. And what happens when the host she clashed with, a Grammy-winning...
What happens about Amazon with a reputation for authoritative the narrative, walks appropriate to back into the spotlight she already stormed out of? And what happens about the host she clashed with, a Grammy-winning absolute known for grace, honesty, and tolerance for games, decides she won't let history repeat itself? This wasn't a Lufa rematch. This was a reckoning, a second chance angry into additional explosion. Welcome to the day Meghan Markle returned to the Jennifer Hudson show, and once again airing beeline into the fire. The atmosphere central the Jennifer Hudson show flat crackled with anticipation. The affectionate that isn't excitement, but something tighter, sharper. Producers exchanged glances as they confused across the set, adjusting microphones, smoothing cushions, blockage every camera bent twice. Admirers members whispered amid themselves, holding their acclaim cards like shields. Everyone remembered aftermost time. Jennifer Hudson's beaming articulation echoed from backstage, accomplishments the allowance like a familiar melody. "Welcome back, everybody," she sang, dispatch out with her signature exuberance. But behind that afterglow was steel, the affectionate forged from experience. "Today," Jennifer continued, animated broadly, "we're welcoming Edition who has been at the center of all-around conversations. She's returning to the appearance, and we achievement today brings clarity, understanding, and maybe even healing. Please acceptable Meghan Markle." The acclaim was balmy but cautious, like acclamation with one eye open. Meghan entered the date with a glide that appropriatability even without a crown. She wore a glossy white dress, aspect as beeline as a ruler. Her smile was thin, practiced, almost rehearsed. Jennifer stood to accost her, arms accessible but not too accessible this time. "Meghan, acceptable back." "Thank you," Meghan replied, her articulation cottony but cool. "I appreciate the invitation." The word invitation landed strangely, like she was accomplishing the appearance of favor by accepting it. They took their seats. Jennifer crossed her legs, acid her dress, breathing anxiously through her nose, preparing. The admirers braced themselves afterwards acceptation too. Jennifer started softly. "So, Meghan, a lot has happened about the aftermost time you were here. New projects, new ventures, and a lot of accessible conversations about your work. How are you activity dispatched back into the spotlight today?" Meghan's smile hardened at the edges. "Well, Jennifer, I never labored the spotlight. Bodies just keep aggravating to ascertain whether I'm in it or not. It's cute. A beachcomber of uncomfortable amusement bouncing through the audience." Jennifer blinked, then nodded graciously. "Okay, let me rephrase. Emotionally, mentally, how have you been aback navigating everything activity on?" Meghan's eyes narrowed aloof a touch. "I don't really measure my abundance based on what the world thinks is activity on, Jennifer. I'm grounded, poised, evolving. I alive on a level that isn't dictated by drama." Jennifer aged her head. "Well, I think a lot of admirers were acquisitive to apprehend how you were accomplishing personally." Meghan crossed her accoutrements loosely, a resting stance disguised as elegance. "I'm thriving, though. I acquisition it absorbing that every time I speak, body's appetite to about face it into some affectionate of civic headline. It's about obsessive." Jennifer inhaled slowly, befitting calm. "All right, let's shift a bit," she said smoothly. "You've recently launched a new non-profit initiative aimed at allotment women. Tell us about what aggressive that." Meghan softened for bisected a second. Again her expression is secular with superiority. "What aggressive it?" "Well, competence, I guess, vision, are a kin of acquaintance not everyone has. I generally feel like people want me to explain things that should be self-evident." Jennifer captivated her smile, but her eyes stiffened. "I anticipate people just appetite to accept your mission, Meghan." "And sometimes," Meghan replied crisply, "bodies should aloof listen instead of ambitious explanations." A few admirers' associates exchanged glances. Jennifer leaned back slightly, still poised. "Well, let's talk specifics. What's the Aboriginal activity your non-profit is tackling?" Meghan broke her nails agilely on the armrest. I prefer not to acknowledge too much. Bodies tend to criticize things before they are accessible to understand them. You mean, Jennifer said slowly. You don't appetite acknowledgement before launch. Meghan gave a baby laugh. I see. Dismissive. I don't charge feedback. I charge space. Tension pulsed through the studio lights. Jennifer, unshaken, reshuffled her catechism cards as admitting allotment and new approach. All right, she said warmly. Let's allocution family. How are Harry and the kids doing? Meghan's eyes flashed like a brand communicable light. Fine. Wonderful. Admitting I anticipate it's a little repetitive that bodies consistently want updates on my alliance before anything else. Isn't that a bit reductive? Jennifer's smile tightened. Audience whispering intensified. Meghan continued, unaware or uncaring. But I get it. People are fascinated. They consistently will be. It's the accountability of actuality memorable. Jennifer bankrupt her hands, breathing evenly. Well, she said gently, we'll get into added capacity afterwards the break. Stay with us, everybody. The audience clapped, but not naturally. It sounded forced, uncertain, like anybody felt the temperature bottom water mount by degree. This was alone the beginning. The moment the cameras blinked back to life, the flat acquainted different, heavier, tighter. The acclaim assurance lit up, but the admirers clapped cautiously, unsure whether they were affable a conversation or animating for a collision. Jennifer Hudson's smile returned, polished and professional, but the strain below it was unmistakable. She glanced against Meghan, who sat immaculate and unmoved, legs beyond at a perfect angle, easily bankrupt with an air of superiority that seemed rehearsed. Welcome back, Jennifer said, her tone warm, but advisedly controlled. We're here with Meghan Markle discussing her work, her journey, and aggregate in between. Meghan gave a tiny nod, the kind that said, yes, continue. As if she were the host instead. Jennifer inhaled. Meghan, I appetite to revisit article you mentioned earlier. You said people misunderstand your intentions or don't grasp the akin you're operating on. Could you advise analyze what you beggarly by that? Meghan edged her button upward, her voice velvet, but sharp. Well, Jennifer, some bodies anticipate they accept me because they apprehend headlines. But headlines, she paused, absolution her gaze sweep beyond the audience, are written for the everyman accepted denominator. Not everyone can appreciate nuance. A wave of murmurs bouncing through the crowd. Jennifer's eyebrows lifted. Are you saying the accessible can't accept you? I'm saying, Meghan replied coolly, that I've outgrown the public's expectations. Jennifer's smile anchored for bisected a second. Aloof connected abundant for the camera to bolt it. Let's allocution about something concrete, Jennifer continued. You recently assassinated a new aggregation for your foundation. Some actual high-profile names from Hollywood. What aggressive those choices. Meghan Ariel won't accept in a polished shrug. Excellence attracts excellence. I don't beleaguer myself with mediocrity. Jennifer blinked, surprised by the bluntness. I accept wanting strong collaborators, but some accept said you administrati. But some above agents members, people who formed anxiously with you, accept said you're difficult to assignment with. That communication can feel. Meghan cut in sharply. Excuse me. Are we absolutely doing this? Jennifer kept her accent calm. I'm giving you the amplitude to respond directly. Meghan scoffed loud abundant for the MIC. Those bodies didn't understand my standards, and if they couldn't keep up, that's hardly my fault. The audience shifted in their seats, the air thickening by the second. Jennifer tried a softer angle. All right, I apprehend you. Let's allocution about motherhood. So many women in our admirers account how open you've been about adopting your children. What's one affair motherhood has taught you about yourself? For a moment, Meghan's announcement softened, then hardened alike more. Motherhood has taught me, she began, that my children deserve bigger than the apple gave me, better than the Alcatraz gave me, better than the media gives me, bigger than this. Jennifer paused, the acceptation not lost on her. This, she echoed quietly. Are you apropos to interviews or scrutiny? Meghan said sharply. Dissection, Body's activity advantage to my emotions, my story, my children. And honestly, Jennifer, I anticipation you of all people would accept that. Jennifer sat up straighter. I absolutely understand absent to assure your kids. I'm a mother, too. But Meghan, you're here on an allocution bold your story. Our viewers care. They appetite to apprehend from you. Care. Meghan afresh with an icy laugh. Body's affliction is connected as I comedy the character they want. The additional I deviate, I become difficult, arrogant, ungrateful. It's boring. Jennifer exhaled slowly. Activity the restriction coiled tighter about the room. Let's about face to something different, she said, her voice steady. Your accessible documentary. It's been declared as your best personal project yet. What makes it different from the ones you've done before? Meghan pursed her lips. It's altered because I'm assuredly cogent, the accuracy without filters, afterwards pressure, afterwards being controlled by producers who don't understand me. Jennifer's eyes flickered. There were letters that you clashed with your antecedent producers. Meghan's accent is secular instantly. Reports, rumors, lies. I don't clash. I elevate. If bodies can't bout my vision, it's not a clash, it's a boundary. Jennifer glanced at the audience who were staring wide-eyed. She tried one added adroit pivot. Earlier, you mentioned activity blurred in the UK. Do you feel added accepted here in the United States? Meghan gave a thin smile. Cold, confident, cutting. I feel tolerated, which is an improvement, but still not at the akin I deserve. Jennifer blinked twice, her patience bending visibly. I'm abiding abounding people appreciate your honesty. Honesty? Meghan repeated, aptitude forward. That's what this is. I'm actuality honest. Jennifer, if people can't handle it, that's their weakness, not mine. A calm fell across the room. Somewhere backstage, a producer froze mid-step. Jennifer inhaled deeply, pushing her chest with a quiet resolve. Well, she said softly, her voice lined with warning. We're certainly accepting an honest conversation today. Meghan smirked. You're welcome. Jennifer's smile achromatic about completely now, replaced with calm determination. This was accepting close, actual abutting to the point of no return, and anybody in the flat acquainted it. By the time the next segment began, the flat acquainted below like a daytime allocution appearance and added like a pressure cooker. The bandage played its cheerful alteration music, but it skimmed over the apparent of allowance that had gone about bashful underneath. Jennifer Hudson angry aback to the camera, smile restored, but this time it looked added like armor than warmth. Welcome back, she said evenly. We're here with Meghan Markle talking about life, work, and the belief above the headlines. The acclaim ablaze flashed. The admirers clapped, but the accent was uneven. Cautious. Meghan sat motionless, posture immaculate, button high. If she sensed the ache in the room, she didn't appearance it. Instead, she gave a small, able smile that never touched her eyes. Jennifer confused in her chair, cards in hand. Meghan, I appetite to ask you something a lot of body's admiration about, she began carefully. You allocution a lot about your truth, your perspective. Do you anytime feel any albatross for how your words affect the bodies you talk about, your family, the royal institution, alike the media? Meghan's gaze accustomed instantly. My responsibility, she replied crisply, is to myself and my children, not to people who aching me or benefited from my pain. If some individuals are uncomfortable with my truth, they should accept behave better in the Aboriginal place. The audience murmured again. Jennifer didn't look away. I get that affliction makes bodies want to allege out, she said gently. But when your words go out to millions of people, they appearance how the apple sees those you talk about. Do you anytime anguish that you might be accomplishing to them what you say the press did to you? Meghan let out a cold, humorless laugh. Are you really comparing me to the abridged press? I'm asking about impact, Jennifer replied, voice calm. Meghan ag ho arch as if puzzled that the catechism alike bear to be asked. No, I don't lose better by over how perpetrators feel about actuality held accountable. Jennifer nodded slowly, but there was a beam of frustration behind her eyes now. All right, she said. Let's allocution specifics. You've spoken about your father, your half-sister, your in-laws, associates of the royal family. Some of them say you've cut off acquaintance completely, that they only apprehend about you through interviews and projects. Do you see any allowance for reconciliation? Meghan's jaw clenched. Why is it that the being who sets a boundary is consistently the one questioned? She attempted back. Body's adulation to ask why I don't alarm them, not why they collection me away in the aboriginal place. I understand that, Jennifer said. But is there any part of you that wonders how your children will feel one day? Audition you speak about their grandparents, their uncle, their ancestors this way. The question landed like a stone. Meghan's eyes flashed. My accouchement will be grateful, she answered, voice sharpening, that I adequate them from toxicity. I debris to aggrandize people just because we allotment DNA or a aftermost name that impresses strangers. The audience was bent amid allure and discomfort. Jennifer took a breath, choosing her abutting move carefully. You've acclimated the chat baneful a lot when talking about institutions, people, the media, she observed. Do you think there's any adventitious that sometimes without acumen your ability also contribute to that toxicity? Meghan stared at her, abashed for an atom of a second, again let out a scoff. Wow, she said slowly. There it is, the maybe you're the botheration angle. I wondered how long it would take. Jennifer captivated up a hand, blockage calm. I'm not saying you're the problem. I'm saying relationships are complicated, stories are complicated, and you've been at the center of a lot of conflict. I think it's fair to ask what allotment of that you might own. Meghan's articulation alone cold and controlled. Jennifer, I came actuality to talk about my Beggarly Absolution Edition airing all over your Belvedere or your audience. And it doesn't Beggarly Bold Edition is a victim of back their affliction everyone around them. The admirers gasped. Meghan looked blindsided as if the air had been knocked out of her chest. You're twisting everything, she said, voice shaking with frustration. Everything I say, you weaponize it. Jennifer leaned back, afraid her arch gently, almost sadly. No, Meghan. You came actuality ready for a fight, accessible to be offended, ready to blame. And honest to God, I don't think you apperceive how to allocution to people anymore afterwards bold they're out to get you. Meghan's jaw dropped. That's ridiculous, Jennifer continued, voice quieter, but firmer than ever. I've tried, Meghan. I've approved every way I apperceive how to accumulate this conversation healthy, but you're bent to find negativity in everything. You've dismissed your family, your critics, your colleagues, and now you're dismissing me. The admirers fell silent, breath held. Jennifer straightened her posture, the final draft forming. And I'm sorry, she said, afraid her head. But I cannot abide an interview where the bedfellow refuses to appoint in good faith. Meghan froze. What is that declared to mean? She whispered. Jennifer looked anon at her, not angry, not emotional, but resolute. It means, she said clearly, that this interview is over. The admirers gasped, some cheering, others stunned. Meghan blinked rapidly, her face cycling through shock, indignation, fury, and disbelief. You'll catastrophe the interview, she demanded. You're ending it. Yes, Jennifer replied calmly. Because this isn't advantageous for you. It isn't advantageous for me, and it certainly isn't what our admirers deserve. Meghan stewed abruptly, articulation assent in disbelief. This is outrageous. You're making a huge mistake. You anticipate people won't see through this. You anticipate they don't apperceive who the absolute villain is here. Jennifer didn't rise. She simply looked up at Meghan with unshakable dignity. I ambition you well, she said softly. But this isn't the abode for whatever action you came actuality to fight. Meghan scoffed, animation shaking, eyes glossy with anger. You apperceive what? She snapped. I don't charge this show. I don't need this audience, and I certainly don't charge your judgment. She unhooked her microphone, slamming it to simulate the chair, and stormed against the bend of the stage. Cameras followed her as she disappeared above the curtains. The audience sat in abashed silence. Jennifer inhaled acutely and faced the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, she said gracefully, we'll be appropriate back. The band began to play, but the restriction in the allowance was still blubbery abundant to touch. And that was the day Meghan Markle absolved out of the Jennifer Hudson show. Not because she was silenced, but because for the Aboriginal time, someone refused to comedy along. So now I appetite to hear your thoughts. Was Jennifer right to end the account, or did things spiral too far? Let me apperceive in the comments. This agitation is far from over. And before you go, beat a like if you enjoyed the story. Subscribe for more dramatic, aerial activity narratives. Turn on notifications so you never absence the next atomic showdown.